Welcome back to our Testing Secret series. This is time for secret number 3. Now remember, the first one is most people don't like testing because they think it's boring and no fun. But turns out, done right, it's actually fun. Let's make it right. Number 2 is that the problem with test velocity, generally speaking, is that people aren't really doing it. So instead of an 8-hour day to do testing, when you measure it, it's a very, very small fraction of the day. And that leads to step 3, secret number 3, which is even when we think we're doing testing or talk about it as if we're doing testing, most of the time, that's not what we're doing. Like if you were to get a stopwatch out and measure how much of the testing time is spent, we think about what is testing? A technical investigation of the state of software to uncover risk to quality, right? Quality related risks. Okay, how much time? I just tested for an hour. What were you doing? Well, I was doing setup, and then I tested for 5 minutes. I found a problem. I tested around that problem to reproduce it and to see that was the only thing that was broken. Then I wrote a communication about what the problem was, or I brought a developer over and we talked about it, and then we had a silly argument about whether or not it should be fixed, and then we talked to the product owner about the same thing and had the same argument again, and then I had to write it up so that it could be completely understood, and then I waited for a build, waited for a commit, waited for a build, got a build, had to do test setup again, and then I could do testing again. How much of that hour was I actually testing? 5 minutes. 5 minutes. If we look at a percentage of the time that is test execution, it's incredibly small. And that's assuming the person's actual role is to be doer of the testing things. Or an analyst or developer doing it as a spare time activity, it's going to be an even smaller fraction. So last time we said, oh, they're only getting this much time doing testing. It's smaller. It's smaller than that. So if we were to automate all of it, if automation were free, if I had a button I could push and get test results that were actionable immediately, how much time would I save? Well, if the delays are actually in doing the fixing and waiting for a new build, press that button all day long, but we have a high regression injection rate, which is we have lots of defects. Every time we make a change, every time we make 100 changes, we get 70 new bugs. It's not actually going to save us that much time because we're going to spend most of our time fixing, and it's not free because all of it needs to be, we need to code it, we need to do test data setup, we need to do a bunch of things. So what I'm saying here is that instead of let's automate this tiny little piece of the test process, which is fine and it might be necessary in this day and age, let's step back and look at the entire delivery cycle and see where the opportunities are for improvement. And you might be surprised. The secret here is that what we think we're doing testing actually is likely not testing at all. Measure and look at least look at how you're spending your time, and then figure out what pieces of that need tooling and when. One common model that I particularly like, many organizations I work with, they can regression test all the different independent features and deploy the features separately. And then they don't really need this big old regression test frameworky thing which runs all the pieces. Unless they have some sort of major technological innovation and change, like we're going to move to mobile. And that's a different discussion. So, one more time, secret number 3. Of the small amount of time we spend testing, most of it probably actually isn't. So take a look at that and see where the opportunities to improve are, and you might be surprised. Now, what I'm trying to do with this series is lay out some facts so we can figure out what to do with it, which is coming soon. But that's enough for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. Love to hear your feedback. Thank you.